Hi guys, I'm back again discussing once again my too much to think topics. Um, I was actually just going back on YouTube and the initial kind of what I would say was the purpose of YouTube from our providers, the Googles and the YouTube people who developed it, the powers that be in that um, industry. And the first viral video I remember was that fat man singing Maya He, you know, and this is what they wanted YouTube to be, was this sort of basement dweller, um, kind of filled with, you know, unimportant, but things that they pushed forward as viral because it's not an organic thing, not anymore. I don't think it ever was an organic thing. As in like a natural kind of, most popular video clicked on just gets the most views and therefore gets pushed forward. They've rigged the algorithms, obviously, right from the start, in that what they intended with the YouTube was that kind of thing, where you got these silly little viral, pathetic, I mean, that kind of stuff never grabbed me at all. And I just kind of left YouTube alone for a long time after that because they sold us that concept and that's what it was all about. But what they never counted on was going to become a right wing, you know, Nazi bigot homophobe platform. Um, and This was a bit of an unintended consequence, and they've absolutely tried everything in their power to pull down complete channels, which is absolute crime. That is a betrayal of free speech completely. All the things that the left absolutely jump up and down about and have a tantrum about. I know lots of channels that have completely disappeared. I went and found their videos, and initially I was like, one of them was on Hitler, and I thought, oh, I'm being a bit naughty here. Then I watched it, and I was actually, it was bloody brilliant. You know, um, So, but they're gone. They pulled them down completely. They also make sure the algorithms are such that you really got to type in virtually the precise words to get results. And this is even on, vanilla stuff like Alexander Solzhenitsyn. If you spell it with an S instead of a Z or a Z in, I can't remember which one it is, a Z instead of an S, you got to get it absolutely pitch perfect because there was a video where him and Putin met, and it's quite an emotional little clip of with music in the background, and why was there was nothing really said except that the Russian church was brought to its knees and it's now beginning to rise up. That was what was said basically, and that's too radical. I mean, you can go on YouTube and you can see women shaving their guavas full on, just in case you want to go and check that out. But don't, seriously. But it's there. So this stuff is there. But the Alexander Solzhenitsyn, they had to hide it in the little corner, make it inaccessible, which they've done to countless videos, which should be, you know, getting far bigger kind of algorithm, um, favorability than what it is. Things on the whole world knows who Nelson Mandela is. An alternative view on Nelson Mandela, for example, someone who's made a video that says no, he's not but the word Nelson Mandela should come up, and you should be getting hundreds of thousands of videos. But that one's magically like got about 110 views or something. Um, one of them is Dr. Peter Hammond, who kind of puts it into perspective of exactly what Nelson Mandela was all about. You know, so there's these discrepancies, but the ironic and the take-home piece is that we completely blew apart their little idea for YouTube, where it was going to be this fat Xbox playing basement dwellers little platform. And actually, as it so happens, a lot of the Xbox playing, the real gamers are not what you expect. Um, a lot of them are into that stuff because it's a level playing field as such. I've said this once before. Um, it's an artificial level playing field, and people are craving this kind of stuff because we don't have a real level playing field. But people quickly say we don't have a real life level playing field. So even the absolute complete fantasy lands of, I'm not a gamer, but I understand why people are into this, why they bury their heads into these fantasy worlds, you know. And it's not for all these reasons that you think. Maybe there is also an aspect of that, where somebody wants to create an avatar where they are Lara Croft, and it's a fat basement dwelling male. But actually, the really good gamers, from what I can gather, are not really like that. They're quite practical people. But they buried their heads in the wrong place, which is a bit sad. They've applied themselves in a kind of a waste of energy, kind of. It's a made up area of life. But this is what people are craving because, like I say, this economy, the global economy, which everybody kind of, oh, well, if you moan about it, it's like people say, oh, but that's economics, which I don't ever buy because it is an absolutely man-made, it is the most controllable thing. It could be the most fair thing ever devised. And because it's not a random thing, it's fully under the control of man. Money is an invented, man-made, it's a construct. But what they want to tell you is that gender is a construct and that money is an absolute, benevolent but uncontrolled force of nature. This is what they're kind of trying to infer in the world out there. But gender is a construct. So is race. I mean, race is a construct as well. These things that are absolutely absurd. But we must believe that economics is it's unchangeable. It's just going to favor almost like a survival of the fittest, and then there'll even be some strange anomalies which nobody can understand. Bullshit. It's fully controlled to the nth degree. You can't even go and try and open a bank account and see how hard that is. Where you've got to, come into a country as a new person and you must magically have couple of accounts, a permanent place of residence, and proof of all of that. And same goes for buying anything, actually, cell phones, whatever. But more importantly, the bank account, which you must have, because no employer is going to give you cash in hand. They must have this whole thing completely controlled. So I went on a bit of a roundabout tour there. On my point of the first viral video, and we ended up in economics. But another thing that I want to kind of touch on and mention in this society, that I've gone into this topic now, that is totally a construct. The usury trillionaire and billionaire class, and even millionaire class, if you're a dollar millionaire or a pound millionaire, are basically in the whole game are riding motorbikes of varying degrees of power while everybody else is on foot trying to run this race around a track. And the consequences of this race track are quite severe because if you fall behind, the the time cut off, you basically, that's starvation, that's out on the streets, that's sleeping rough, or end of view, per se. So this construct is controlling everyone. We are supposed to be controlling it. And the reason for this is because it's controlled by a certain group of people. Okay? You have to fully understand the full control that you have. If you've ever been like a club captain or been involved, you must know that you could be manipulative. But now imagine that on steroids times a million people, the kind of control that you actually wield. I mean, it's no wonder we have these agendas which nobody ever asked for. It's quite clear why we have these agendas which nobody ever asked for, where there's gay rights and gay parades and LGBT every second day, feminist rights. Any one of their marches gets a police support, of vehicles and hundreds of officers, or their wish list is always met. Whereas an actual crime, suddenly there's no police, and they say, well, we don't have any funds and resources. Well, guess why that is? Because the monetary system is 100% man-made. It's not economical. That's the wrong word for it. It's the opposite of economical. But you can see the glaring discrepancies when you, as a tax-paying person, are not given basic decencies of being able to ride your bicycle and then lock it up outside without coming back and it's gone in 60 seconds, as the movie says. Except it's your bicycle, and now you're stuck for a couple of weeks with no transport. And I go on about this because it's a perfect example, in a city, in a large city like London. So also, biblically, it says, idle hands are the devil's playground, which exacerbates things a bit for us, unfortunately, because it means that these billionaires, trillionaires, and millionaires are the idle hands, because many of them are not working, truly working hard as such. And this is also why you get these agendas, which are, I honestly think Rothschild should dig some ditches, and there should be nobody that's so supreme that they're above the average man, especially people with morals such as the elites that have been ruling us. But idle hands are the devil's playground, and I think that they are idle, and I think that they're proving it by their fruits and letting their hands be the devil's playground. Of course, there's also a lot of the things that they're doing are deliberately done to hinder our society. You got the example of Bolsheviks in Russia. Bolsheviks were not Russian. They were not ethnic Russian. 80% of the first Russian party was not ethnic Russian. You can go and do your research as to kind of where they came from, who they are. You got your Lenins and Lev Bronstein, his real name or whatever, that's Trotsky, I think. All of these guys, Karl Marx, the author of most of these and the idol of most of these guys, was not a Russian or anything like that. They had no business adopting his ideas of philosophy and life whatsoever. And, eyes have to open and actions have to be taken. And this is the bare minimum, that eyes are being opened. They are being opened. And mark my words, many people are coming to the same conclusions. we are hindered by this new 10 commandments that we got of thou shalt not be racist, anti-Semitic, anti-LGBT, homophobe, Islamophobe. Our new 10 commandments have obviously replaced the old 10 commandments because thou can murder and thou can steal. Basically, it's actually kind of celebrated. If you're just a schmuck that sits back and is law abiding, it's kind of like these gangsters that rule us. They kind of see us as, kind of clowns and useless schmucks, basically. So it's also a bit of food for thought. Just some news which I don't really know how to take it in terms of this coronavirus. But a couple of take-home points that I have noticed is I'm working in an environment where they have had a confirmed case, absolutely, massive hospital, and not one word to staff, not one sit-down meeting with all the staff should have been given an absolute, if you come down with these symptoms or take these precautions, etc., etc. But most importantly, like what symptoms to look out for, because none of them have run away. The staff are faithfully going to work. When the media is jumping up and down about a killer virus, you would think. So I don't know. My mind's in two places. I don't know what to think about it because it could be extremely deadly, and our toxic rulers that despise us kind of wanted to catch on, or it's actually a non-entity and they're not too worried about it, and the media is just hyping it to cover up other stories. I do remember the H1N1 virus and bird flu, and who really does know anybody that got that and died from it? Outside of ordinary numbers. I mean, we're not talking about bubonic plague level here, the Black Plague of London or anything like that. Although maybe I'm open to it. It could be absolutely a killer virus. But in that case, then how come in this place, which is a massive hospital, they didn't gather all the staff and tell them, because the staff are going to go home if they are carriers. They're going to spread this thing on the way home. And, if they're feeling a bit down, wouldn't they rather say, look, don't go home. We can look after you right here because we don't want you taking this on the tubes with a few million people traveling to truly spread the virus. So it's kind of like a bit of discrepancies, a lot of loose ends, and I'm smelling a bit of bullshit. Unfortunately, I could be wrong. I mean, I don't really know which way it's going, to be honest. But either way, actually, whatever the actual scenario is, it doesn't add up. So, but as usual, the establishment is treating us like mushrooms. And I don't know if you know much about mushrooms, but you basically kept in the dark and fed shit. And that's pretty much the modus operandi for most things. The press are there mainly to disguise the truth and hide the truth from us, especially about our idle-handed usury class, who rule us with their trillions, who are supposedly absolute geniuses. They're such geniuses that even savants have not surpassed their level of what would you call it? Their level of aptitude and their level of what they deserve in this world. For what they do for the whole of society, basically oppress us and use our labor and our taxes, and don't allow you to actually spread your wings and be an independent person at all, because you can't have land either. That's another thing you can't just have. I think that they've taken land away. more than given any land. They seem to love this as well. If you looked at the Holodomor and what was done in the Holodomor was land removal, and there was another story with the Irish famine was land removal as well based. It seems to be a common thread that runs through this whole thing. The Scottish Highland removals of people from their land there as well in Scotland. I mean, vast. I mean, vast areas of Scotland that were just abandoned by forced removals by the landowners. Who were the landowners and who were they beholden to? You know, banks in London, perhaps? A certain special tribe of people that own those banks? I don't know. I don't know all the details. But there seems to be a common thread. And, it hasn't stopped because in South Africa, they've got this criminal enforcer party, the ANC and the EFF and the South African Communist Party, that are hell bent on land removal from our farmers. The farmers, the whites and the farmers have something like 22% of the land in the country, and the government has all the rest. So why don't they just give them the rest of their land? Yeah, give it to the people. let them thrive. No, they can't have that. They want the farms. Albeit that a lot of them were established on actually uninhabited land, so there are no land rights in a lot of it, but they're taking it anyway. Uninhabited, and it could be proved that it was uninhabited because those people could not tap the water source at all. They could not survive on that land. They probably died trying to cross it. In fact, a lot of them back in before settlers ever arrived. So, you start to notice these trends, and it's a constant trend of these land removals and who's kind of behind it. But be that as it may, I've covered these issues before, and it seems that a lot of people are aware of it and starting to wake up, but there's still people that will never wake up. They will never come to that realization of what's really going on and how we actually being ruled by this. The best comparison would be the film Goodfellas and Casino, those two films. We've got the mafia and the big bosses, these old, maybe they're not even so old, but these men behind the scenes who control the enforcers and the money earners. Some of them do a bit of both. But that's what the mob can be broken down to. But there's this group that controls all of them and decides their fate, and they have the money, and they got to pay those guys the dues, the fat of the land, the absolute cream of the crop. All the money they skim from the casinos, the bulk of it. We're talking absolute trillions here. Goes to this group of unseen men, and everybody claims that that's the mob when they catch these guys, and they've got court cases with them. That's just the enforcers. That's just the earners. When they say the mob was caught, I mean, Las Vegas is still controlled by the same people, but it was organized crime, basically. It's go and look really into it and see who really controls money supply of the entire planet, truly behind it. And it's the same kind of thing. They've placed their enforcers and their mob. And South Africa would be almost a pure example of that. The UK would probably be the next purest example, in Europe. Where they've got the like in South Africa, the mob would be, Ramaphosa could be considered an earner. Julius Malema could be considered an enforcer. And they play it up with those puppets, and they play the whole country, and they get as they get kickbacks of millions of rands, which is a lot of money. um, they're going to pay their mob bosses the dues of trillions, because you've got to wonder where all those trillions have gone. I mean, the corruption is that much that it's trillions that has been taken basically from 4 or 5 million people that pay the actual taxes in the country. So things are fully controlled by these groups, or this group. But onto another thing, with saying idle hands are the devil's playground. That was one biblical text. I think there's another one that I remember was instructions to women. I mean, far be it from me to say anything about that kind of thing, but unfortunately, I have to go there, and then speak about these things as well. And it concerns the feminists sort of movement, where women were instructed to be of one man, have children, and be role models to the younger girls, and not busybodies. And that's a little clue there when you see these feminists and how they've got all this time on their hands, this idle hands again, and they've got all this time to protest and go to be parts of these groups, and where the feminists and the lesbians are obviously, they're not family people. They don't have a family as such, not a real family anyway. If they've adopted children, that's totally different. It's not to do with your flesh and blood. Not in a traditional way anyway. How come it's always those kind of women that are jumping up and down? It's because they're busybodies. And that's exactly like what the feminist movement is basically. They've generated an entire group of busybodies. That's why you get these blue-haired lesbians, constantly objecting to the rights of the unborn, because that's what nice girls do, really, don't they? Objecting to men in general, equating marriage with slavery, when actually, they're a slave to their boss, or a slave to whoever pays them money so they can get food to eat. So, nothing really, there's no way of avoiding having a boss as such. But all they did in the feminist movement was exchange their husband boss, per se, for, the corporate boss. So that, kind of sums the feminists up in the shortest way possible, where they are kind of busy bodies. And it's, unfortunately, it leaks over into just the way that females are behaving in general, in that they're far more, they haven't followed the biblical instruction of being of one husband, and having a family and being a role model to the young girls, whereas instead they've gone for the career, and that's just becoming busybodies rather than being a mom as such. Anyway, I hope I've said a lot of controversial things. I don't think I was particularly on form with regard to that. But anyway, that's just my latest upload, and have a good time. Until next time. Catch you later.